Today, we're going to talk a little bit about behavior change. And the question that we thought could be really interesting for us to talk about is what you do to create and instill behavior change in leaders through coaching and development programs. And I think I'll hand over to you, Leslie, to kick us off on that.
Thanks, Matthew. I think it's one of those joys of looking at leadership programs over so many years, of being a participant or being or buying leadership programs, and actually not understanding the impact or the lack of behavioural change that can happen. So now what I do, or the process of what I go through, and I know we go through, is the fact that we actually try and put development programs over a longer period of time. And the reason why we do that, so somebody says to me, do you want to do a one-day program on? I'll say, can I do 2 half days? And have a break in the middle? Because what I really want them to do is try and experiment or try that change that occurred, or that theory that, I haven't doing this very well at all, that theory that we covered off at the beginning, and actually experiment with it. Try it, learn it, give it a go, see if it worked or not. And then what I try and do is get them, when they come back that second day or that second time, is they actually reflect on that learning and unpack that learning to their colleagues in the room, which actually enables them to actually start to articulate what that change looked like, whether it was effective or not, whether I'll continue with that process, whether it made a significant difference to their leadership management style in the room. I think that's the key thing around it, is about giving them that space to actually practice.
It's about embedding it, so they get a chance to look at what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
So what's some of the key learnings you've got from some of the participants in that process?
I find that program extraordinary, watching people trusting me to say, yes, I'll give it a go. I'll try that different style of approach to my staff. There's certain things I set them up with. So if you're leaving a program, one of the things, and you want to try something new, what I do say to the participants is saying, when you go back to the office, let them know that you've just been on a program and that you've actually just want to try something new, experiment with something in that process and change, because I don't think I've been looking after you or leading you or managing you as well as I could. So I'm going to change. And that gives them a warning, their staff a warning, that I'm going to change how I do this, but also holds them more accountable to actually doing it in that process. So I do absolutely set them up with that process and that thinking around it. The stories are amazing that they come back with. I never believed that having a conversation with somebody in the morning around how was their weekend would make such a difference to the productivity of that person throughout the week or the month. It was really silly little things like that.
I struggle with this at times. So when I'm doing a public program where people are coming from different organizations, I think it works really, really well. Right? It's when I do an organization with the organization itself that the organizational culture tends to overtake the desire or the room for experimentation. When I get people back, let's say from a single organization, back a week later, and I said, "What have you done?" Then the cultural aspect comes and says, "Oh, we were too busy to do that," or there were things that came up, or things interfered with that. I don't feel I'm supported by my manager in order to be able to do that. There seems to be something wrong. There's something different when it is in an organizational program, or if it's in a thing. Have you got any insights on that?
It's really interesting. I hadn't really thought about it. One of the things that we've introduced into the programs that I run and to address that is having all the leaders and managers, or their leaders, their line managers in a room saying, this is the course that they're going on. And I give them and these are the topics we're going to do. This is the expectations of of your staff, that they're going to come back and they're going to try something new, and to embed that learning, to actually change that behaviour, then you'll need to help them and support them. There are two models I really like to think about. One is the forgetting curve. That was Herman, is it Ebbinghaus that designed it or said it? He said, if new information isn't applied, we'll forget about 75% of it within 6 days. So if we actually don't try and apply it, that's massive in the sense of an organisation spending time on my learning and actually not allowing me to apply it because it just won't sit. The other one that I think is really, really interesting, I've never been able to find where it came from, so excuse me about this process, but it was talking about the most important person in a person's learning journey. So is it the line manager? Is it the facilitator? Is it the person attending the program? Who's that? Who's the key person in the room? And it talks about pre, during, and post. Pre is the line manager, and it's about understanding this is what that person needs, what that person's needs to grow in, that behavioural change that needs to happen. In the room, it's the person. My job as a facilitator is to adapt what I need to give to you so that you're learning along the way, and make it exciting and manageable so that you can actually apply some of them. But when that person leaves, that person that's really important on post-program is your line manager, because they're the ones that will enable it to happen. They're the ones that can ask the questions or get back to work. Which way do you want to play it? So they're really, really key. So I do a session for the line managers up front, and I will send them emails along the journey to say, this is what they've been covering off. I don't give any big secrets away. I just talk about, these are the things that resonated with them. Here's some questions you might like to ask them. Here's some thinking. Here's some theory for you. So it engages them in that process as well.
I think too, just going back to your statement around public programs versus organisational programs, where the culture is not allowing those leaders to grow. When they come back and say to me, I'm not enabled to do that within the organisation, I'm not supported in that way, I talk to them a little bit about what sort of leader do you want to be? What do you want to be known for? What's your legacy? And do you think it's worthwhile to try this experiment to build your leadership capability to be the leader that you want to be? And I think
that's
Leslie,
really important, yes.
Yeah, I think Leslie, you've had some experiences around that.
Which one are we going to talk about? We'll talk about CEOs. There's a person I'm coaching at the moment who's doing a program with me at the moment, and she's really interesting because she didn't realise the context of how to do this and actually go and practice this stuff. She'd never actually thought about it, so she thought, I'll teach you and then you'll be perfect at it, as opposed to supporting people through that journey. And then she sort of said to me, but my manager doesn't do that. For me, why would I do it for my people? Help my people. That's really interesting. And don't be that person. But the great story I've got is around a CEO who's, is this the one you want me to talk about?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So she's feeling, a CEO is not really as competent, or she doesn't feel like she's as competent as she could be in that role. She's feeling overwhelmed in it. And to overcome that, what she's been doing is being micromanaging. She's been getting into all the detail of all the things that are going all around the organisation, to the point, so she's not strategic in her approach, and therefore her people are not strategic in their approach. So they're all in the detail. No one's trusting anybody along the way. Is that the story you want me to cover?
And so how do the people below her how did they tackle that? They're nearly protective of their own people, so they become the go-between. I'm not sure that this, in terms of their learning and that exposure, it's about managing up into that process and learning how to do that well. I think in terms of that behavioural change for participants attending programs, and you've got that sort of line manager, it's about giving them the confidence in
and enabling them to experiment. It's about learning forward. It's you will make mistakes.
Failing forward,
that's the one. But you'll make mistakes, but what did you learn from it? This is really key. That reflective practice is so important. So it's not saying don't do it like her. What would you like to be as a leader and manager? How would you like to take that journey forward in that process? What did you learn that you're not going to be from that manager? What will you take with you to run with it? So they're continually learning.
I think when you talk about this sort of failing forward and experiment, I think that's a really interesting topic. I still believe that a lot of us are scared of failing, but that a level of experimenting gives us a different context in which we can be more detached. So we're not necessarily thinking about this from a personal, this is my space, but an experiment is something that sits more out here.
Yes.
And looking from my days of working in coaching, I always find that if you can move something from that is in here to out there, it actually allows people to actually enable it and get into action.
Yes.
If it's in here, we can't get into action. But if it's outside,
this is the hypothesis.
This is the hypothesis, and I'm experimenting with it.
Yeah.
And so I'm not attaching self-value to this experiment.
No. I'm saying, is it of value to continue this journey? That's the process.
Yeah.
Or do I throw it away?
Yeah.
And that's both are good contexts around it. I think the other thing around that behavioural change, long sessions behavioural change, is that reflective practice. So that and to learn, so that individuals actually do that reflective practice every week. What went well this week? Why did it go well? I was experimenting on that with that behavioural change. Did it work? Did it not work? Why didn't it? What would I do differently if it didn't work so well? So what went well and why? What didn't go so well? Why? What will I do differently? And I get them to write it down. So people say, I think about it. But I actually say, write it down. Get yourself a really lovely book and write it down. Because in 3 months' time, you can actually go back and actually see your journey. Or 6 months' time, you can actually see where you started to where you are now. That you've grown in that process. Because people forget that, and we forget to acknowledge the growth in our people as well.
Do you find many people tell you they don't have time to do it?
Yeah, so I actually make it in your diary, this is what you do, and you actually block out half an hour of your day, and they will sit there and say, what am I going to write? And you'll give them tidbits, but I'll sit there going, I don't know what to write. And eventually, if you hold them to it, they will do it, or they hold themselves to it.
Again, thank you for this conversation. I think it's been a really, really good conversation. I think the insight for me taking away from this is that never just do one day. Try to do 2 half days.
Yeah.
Create that time for experimentation, failing forward, that whole concept of being able to do that. I think the second point that is really important is getting the line manager involved, and how important the line manager is before and afterwards, and how to enlist them and enroll them. And part of our work as educators and as facilitators is to make sure that we got the external support coming from the team. I thought that was really, really important. And I think if people can't do that, or the culture doesn't allow them to do that, I think that getting them to imagine what kind of a leader they want to be, and allowing them to view this as an experiment, not as personal failure or personal risk. And so how do we detach people from that personal risk in order to do that? And I think that experimenting that you talked about, I think is really important. So thank you for this this conversation. We're a part of a community of practice, and this community of practice is enabling all people that are facilitators or in leadership or in this specific area to come together and share their views, like we are sharing our views here today. So there is a link that will come up in the super afterwards, and there's also a link in the details in the description area downstairs. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of this community of practice, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't